Welcome back, everyone, to another one of my long plays. We're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite games of all time, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, developed by Konami's Computer Entertainment of Tokyo, if I can get that right, and published obviously by Konami and released in the United States on October 3rd of 1997. So this is one of the games that kind of kickstarted the genre classification of Metroidvania, because this was a pretty radical departure from the traditional Castlevania games that people had become accustomed to over the years. Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, I think that's what that one's called, Super Castlevania 4, and Rondo of Blood all played a little bit more like the traditional Castlevania games that everyone remembers playing as kids. They were, side-scrolling, just kind of whip the enemy, try to get to a boss character. Once you beat the boss, you advance to the next stage, and it's just a very simple action-style game with no progression for the character in any way. This game bucked that trend pretty significantly. Not the first game that ever did it. Technically, Simon's Quest, which was Castlevania 2, did have some light RPG elements to it. However, this is the game that kind of made that more RPG style of gameplay synonymous with the name Castlevania. So we're going to take a look at it. We're not just going to play a standard version of the game. I had an idea in mind for how to make this game a little bit more interesting, a little more spicy, if you will. I'm going to play the game completely new. No, that's not what I'm doing. We're going to do a special version of the game. If you are familiar with the game at all, you know that you can actually make your character stats different depending on specific codes that you can enter as your name. Usually these only work if you've already got a clear file saved for that particular game. I do already have one on here, and you can get a look at the name of the character that we're going to be using, because it is the same as the one that I did for the clear file. Let's go ahead and start a new game. What this is a code that basically gives your character 99 as a stat for their luck stat. It's X-X exclamation V quote quote Q. Now, you start the game in the way that most people are familiar with Castlevania. You're playing at the very end of Rondo of Blood as Richter Belmont. It turns out that you have to do that kind of like as a prelude or a prologue for the events that happen at the very beginning of this particular game, where you don't play as a Belmont, which is a nice departure from the series. You actually play as the son of Dracula, Alucard. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. If it wasn't obvious from the background that you're seeing on the screen here, we're not playing the original PlayStation 1 version of the game, which I do have a copy of. We are actually playing the re-release that came out on the Xbox 360 as well as the PlayStation 3. This is the Xbox 360 version. Now, the intro of the game here actually gives you a taste of some of the items that you'll be able to pick up as Alucard. The cross is a standard sub-weapon that you would normally pick up in one of the older style of Castlevania games. However, Firebrand is a weapon that you won't actually be able to use as Richter, nor the Dark Shield, nor the Baudelaire, nor the Moonrod. All of these are weapons or shields that you would normally use as Alucard. I think they just kind of stuck them in there as kind of a little Easter egg for people, just like all these other items, including Power of Sire, which is a nice little sub-weapon that only Alucard gets to use, where he uses a disposable item that will hit every enemy on the screen, and it's a very flashy and exotic attack that does a lot of damage. There we go. All right. Now, if you've never played Castlevania Symphony of the Night before, the dialogue in this game, which was a very early release in the PlayStation 1 catalog, has actual voice acting for all of the character parts. And it is pretty notable for having some pretty awful dialogue. They did a re-release of this game around 2000, I'm going to say 13 or 14, where they actually released it on the PlayStation Portable, and you could get a copy of what they called Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles, and it came with an unlockable copy of Symphony of the Night. They redid all of the dialogue in that game, and they made it sound less cheesy, which takes away some of the fun of this. So we're not going to look at that version. That one actually makes everything seem a little bit more of a serious tone, and it's a little bit more fun listening to the original dialogue. So let's go ahead and meet our enemy, Dracula.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world.
I love it.
It's not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh. I was called here by humans who wish to pay me tribute.
Tribute?
Nice little detail here. I'll cut in. The glass of what looks like blood in Dracula's hand. Watch what happens after he pulls it up to his mouth.
Your words are as empty as your soul. Mankind ill needs a savior such as you.
What is
He actually drinks it. There's no blood in it
miserable
anymore.
little pile of secrets. But enough talk. Have at you!
How about you? All right, so one of the key things you want to do when you're doing this fight is to play very safe, conservative, because the more damage you take, the lower your starting stats as Alucard. So you have to take 1 or 2 hits and then use your whip as a defensive barrier against those shots that he fires out. You can only do it against the standard fireballs. I am too far away. He does a second attack right here where he's going to shoot some bigger meteor-style balls. You can dodge those pretty easily. I have never actually beaten Rondo of Blood, so I have no idea how close this is to the final fight against Dracula. I have a feeling they probably made it a lot easier. Richter has some other cool things that you can do as well in this game. I don't usually play as Richter in the additional mode you can do, and you could probably see it on the screen while I was yammering away there. You actually can play as Richter Belmont through the entire game simply by entering your character name as Richter. But that is one thing that's only available. I know I was going to take a hit. If you've beaten the game once. I don't think you can do that from a fresh save file. Basically, you have to have one cleared game file saved to the console in order to play as one of these additional modes. Uh-oh. All right, we're good. Richter can also do a nice little backflip, which we'll try here. Duck like this. Jump, backflip. He can also squat like he's got to take a dump. Oh, I gotta go. Get out of here. I didn't attack this because it drops a holy water, and I like the cross a little more. Uh-oh. Oh! I thought I hit him. Dodge! Ah, I picked it up anyway. That's all right. I believe the length of time you take to beat Dracula also affects your health, but I know that your relative damage level is the primary determinant. Oh no! Okay, I'm not worried about the high score. That's all right. Jump! And jump! Almost done, and it's over!
This cannot be!
I never understood what they were going for with that little flashcard.
It was Richter Belmont, the legendary vampire hunter, who succeeded in finally ending the menace of Count Dracula, Lord of the Vampires, who had been brought back from the grave by the dark priest Shaft.
Can you dig it?
However, one night 4 years later, under the glare of a full moon, Richter mysteriously vanished. With no idea of where to begin her search, Maria Renard set out to look for him. It was then that fate intervened. Castlevania, the Castle of Dracula.
I need to read faster.
which is rumored to appear once every century, suddenly materialized out of the mist as if to show her the way. Meanwhile, powerful forces were struggling for the soul of a man named Alucard, the very same Alucard who had teamed up with Richter Belmont to battle his immortal father, Count Vlad Tepes Dracula. Alucard, in order to purge the world of his own cursed bloodline, had submerged his vampiric powers and entered into what was supposed to be an eternal slumber. But now he is awake and aware of the evil once again at work in his homeland. Time has come once again for the forces of good and evil to engage in their ancient battle. Dracula's castle beckons for you.
And no man can say who shall emerge.
I can't even speak. Whatever. Whoever can emerge victorious. Yada yada. Castlevania. Not the full name. One of the most impractically designed castles ever because there's just one spire that floats in midair. And here comes our homie. There he is. Running faster than he normally can in the game. Why? I don't know. Video games. Alright, and here we take over from here for the rest of the game as Alucard. Now, one of the big differences between Richter and Alucard, he can equip things. Look at all these pretty items he can put on. Now, here is one of the things that we're going to do just to keep things a little bit spicy, a little bit interesting. Not only am I going to have the enhanced luck stat, which you can see in the bottom left there, luck at 99 plus 20, and the 20 is because I have an item called Lapis Lazuli, which increases your luck stat by 20. Not only am I going to use that luck stat to improve the chances of picking up unique items in the game, I'm actually going to use what I find. What I mean by that is, once we get past a certain checkpoint very early in the game here, anything I pick up in the game, I'm putting it on. If it is the best item in the game, I'm putting it on. If it is the worst item in the game, I'm putting it on. And we'll keep swapping items in and out as I play through the game and use whatever I have. If I get stuck, we can swap out for some better equipment, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. This is not a very difficult game. It's actually quite easy as long as you're good at dodging enemy attacks and making use of not only your magic spells, which Alucard has access to magic, but also the consumable items that you can find throughout the game. There are a handful of them that are incredibly powerful, and they will be useful as backups, but I'm not going to rely on those. I think there are more than enough options available to you as you play through the game that you don't have to worry about ever getting stuck with a bad piece of equipment. Now, as I said, because I took some damage at the very beginning of the game, unfortunately, my character has some pretty lousy stats. His intelligence and constitution start at 0. Strength starts at 1. He has incredibly low magic points and heart points. And he has about as low a health as he could possibly get. The good news is you pick up items to increase your magic and your health very often. The hearts, I think there might be an item for that. I'm not 100%. Or maybe it's hit points and hearts, and magic points just go up on their own as part of the intelligence stat. But in either case, you're not in the lowest stats for very long in this game. Now, one of the other benefits of playing a clear or replay save file, which is what we're doing here because I've beaten the game once and we're playing what's called a replay file, is that is the opportunity to pick up one item, which we're not going to farm for, but if I find it, I am going to use it, called the Ring of Varda. And the Ring of Varda is an item dropped by a big yellow skeleton later in the game called the Paracephalophus, I believe is the full name. And that ring basically jacks all of your stats up about as high as they can possibly go. And you can farm for 2 of those and basically make the game trivial as far as difficulty. We're not going to do that, though. We're going to just go through the area like normal. If I get one, awesome. If I don't, no big deal. We just keep on playing. So I do want to jack my health up just a tiny bit before we go forward. There's one little trick we're going to do, and I'll explain it in a couple minutes here after I've gotten some levels. That will help us out a little bit if I do get stuck in a spot. Probably won't absolutely need this, but we'll do it just to be safe. Alright, so I need one more hit point, then I should be good. Yoink! There's also a couple of fun things you can do just in this main area here that we'll have to come back to, and this is part of the reason why this game is referenced in the same breath as Metroid. There are areas of the game that you will not be able to get to until you come back later with new abilities. This room in particular, you actually require 2 items that we don't have in our inventory to get a special sword that is on the left side of this room, and we will certainly come back at a later point in time to get that. How close am I? Probably 2 or 3 enemies. 1, 2, 3. Alright. 4. Oh, so close. We're getting there. Of course, if you ever played a Castlevania game, there we go. You're familiar with a lot of the enemies that you're going to see throughout this game because it is just kind of a mashup of all the hits, all the favorites that you saw from the first 3 Castlevania games, as well as Super Castlevania and Rondo of Blood. And in fact, I think most of the enemy sets in this game are actually reskins or reused assets from Rondo of Blood, so they should look very familiar. All right, so to set up what we're going to be doing, I'm going to go through this room, I'm going to clear all the enemies, and get to the far right side because there is one item we're going to want to pick up before we leave. Kill the warg. Kill the warg. Right here is some meat. We don't need it yet. Hopefully we won't need it at all. Next, I'm going to take off... Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. There we go. Take off everything except for my sword. And we'll leave the lapis lazuli on lazuli. I'm not sure how you say that, because it doesn't actually affect my defense in any way. Everything else is currently unequipped, which makes me a very, very weak young boy, and we'll see why that matters in a second. So first thing we've got to do is we got to kill the first warg that you encounter in this room. Then when we do kill him, we want to get to the second warg, leap over him, and let him hit us one time. The reason for that is there is a checkpoint in the very next room to the right where basically Alucard encounters one of Dracula's big henchmen, Death, who is a bad guy in just about every single Castlevania game and always is like the second in command to Dracula. And he'll say, hey, I can't let you advance and try to kill your father. I'm going to strip you of all your goodies. And he takes all of your equipment away. And then you have to pick up all new equipment from here. Because basically, Alucard is starting as though he had just finished his big, bad encounter against Dracula in the end of Castlevania 3. So he has all of his best equipment, but they thought it would be more interesting to give you a taste of what you can get throughout the game and then take it all away, kind of like Metroid Other M and I guess Metroid Prime 2, where they give you all this equipment and then they arbitrarily strip you of it so that you have to earn it back later. Maybe it's a little bit overused at this point in time, but back then it was an interesting idea. I don't know how well it worked out, but here you lose all of your equipment normally, and you have to pick up new stuff going forward. However, if you do what I'm about to do, you can actually skip that entire room. Now, of course, that's going to depend on whether or not I can do it successfully. First warg dead. Second warg. Let him lunge. Jump. I missed it! Oh, we might have to redo it, and that's why I needed the meat. It's all right. We can try it again. But you did see that it did quite a bit of damage, and that's why I needed to level up a little bit. So I'll give this a second try, and hopefully, I clear him. And And in fact, just to be safe, I can put the armor on first to jump him and then take it off afterwards so that the hit connects as hard as it needs to. And we'll eat the pot roast. Yoink! Get some health back. Alright, so let's get over him first, then we'll let him take his shot. Killed him. Clear the second one. Lunge, lunge, lunge. Hup! Got it. Alright, now, let's unequip real quick. No, come on. There we go. Take everything off. You don't want him to have any defense that'll prevent him from getting blown across the screen. Here we go. Take a step forward and see ya! Skip right through the cutscene. Perfect. So what that does is it prevents death from taking away all of my good equipment. Will I use it going forward? Right now, no, I won't, but I have the option. So the first two enemies in this room, the two skeletons that you see, both have a scripted item drop so that you don't start with nothing. You get a short sword from this guy, and up here you get a two-handed sword called Red Rust. Yoink! If you don't fight them before you go into the save room, which is right here, you actually lose the ability to pick up those items from those two enemies. And then you have to basically duel hand-to-hand until you pick up another weapon. Alright, so we're going to save. By the way, because I had skipped that room the way that I did, I could not pause the game and access my inventory until I saved. Now that I've saved, I can actually access my inventory. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this. Put on the short sword. We're going to sort everything. Yeah, I think that's fine. So that dumps all the equipment in order. And here we go. We're going to start our adventure with the use what I find version of the gameplay here. So as I mentioned, this is one of my favorite games of all time. The first time I heard about it, I did not have a PlayStation. I think I got my PlayStation 98, 99. There was a kid that I had, I think it was English class with in high school in about 11th grade. It would have been 11th grade probably. And every day he would come into class and he would talk about this game that he was playing, this Castlevania game. And he was describing it with such enthusiasm. And he was talking about all these exotic items and weapons and stuff that you would find in the game. And I was thinking, I've played Castlevania. None of that is in Castlevania. Is he just like yanking my chain? And it turns out he was right. This is one of those games that ended up on a lot of people's top 100 or top 20 or top 50 games of all time lists. So eventually I did pick it up and I loved the game. It is a game that I ended up giving as a birthday gift to one of my best friends, channel friend Ova9000. At the time, I thought, no big deal. He wants the game and I happen to have it. I'll just give it to him and I'll pick up another copy of the game some other time. And then they stopped printing the game. And it became super hard to find for some reason. So I ended up having to... Uh-oh. Oh. All right. This is why having those super low stats really comes into play. Oh. It's all right. All right. For now. All right. Step on the platform there. Get this. Which drops my first piece of armor. Very important. We need to have some kind of defense here. So even 1 point's better than nothing. I ended up giving Ova my copy of the game, and then it became almost impossible to find. Luckily, because this ended up being a bestseller, PlayStation, or I guess I should say Sony, put it on their greatest hits list, and it became a green label. What I mean by that is the standard versions of PlayStation 1 games usually had a black side label to them. If they became a greatest hits re-release, they actually got a green side label, and it basically said PlayStation hits or greatest hits or something like that. So I did get a re-release version of the game. The original, I don't know if it still has the same rarity that it did at the time that that game was, they stopped printing it. I would say, though, that it is one of those games that, yeah, if I had known at the time how rare it would have been, I would have been like, shoot, sorry, John, can't give that to you. Yeah, I loved the game, but it was one of those things where, my friend wants it, and I know I love the game, and I'm sure I can find another one of these some days, so I gave it to him without thinking about whether or not I'd ever be able to get another copy, and thankfully I did. And thankfully they ended up re-releasing it digitally so that people could check it out on every platform under the sun. Alright, so I want to kill him right now because there is a little trick you can do, which we're going to do right here, where you can use this platform, which you're normally not supposed to access, to get up here, and then walk onto this side to pick up a nice little item that we're going to use right away called the Basilard. This is actually one of the best early weapons you can get because it is a very fast attacking weapon. Almost as fast as you can jam on the button, you get attacks with it, like this. So it's a very fast-hitting weapon, and since I'm a very weak character, you want to get all the jabs in that you can with this. Whoa. Get out of here. Got an axe armor right here. Oop. There's a lot of very unique and very fun items in this game. There is an item drop by the blue versions of the axe armors. I believe it's a suit of armor, and it basically turns you into an axe armor. It's one of the weirdest items in the game. It is not terribly useful because the axe armor can't jump very high, and the attacks do okay damage, but it's not one of those ones you want to rely on. Also, we haven't actually looked at it much yet, but there is, in fact, a menu or a map in this game. So if you're ever lost, you can look at the map to see where you're going or where you want to go and kind of redirect to any of the rooms that you may have missed. This is one of the... Oh, I got a subweb. One of the earliest areas of the game where there is a secret room. You just hit this wall, and you get a nice little health bonus, I believe. Oh, it's heart boost. There we go. So the hearts are used just like they are in most of your older Castlevania games, where you can use sub-weapons, and they consume hearts in order to be used. The door there is the first secret room, or this is the first secret room, right down here. If I can hit it, I have to switch to a longer range weapon, so I'll put on the short sword. The reason you have to do that is you have to actually be able to slash down at an angle. Normally you attack straight ahead, but if you aim down and forward at the same time, you'll do a slash at the floor, like this. Alright, so let's go ahead and put the Basilard back on, just to be fair, because we are playing this like we're supposed to. Yep. Yoink! And then you have to hit this little thing here, and this should be the first health up. Yep. There we go. I think that's it. I don't think there's any other doors here. Just be doubly sure. Yep, nothing there. And it turns out the completion percentage of the map actually affects the ending of the game. If you manage to get all the way through all of the map, or all of the game, but you only have, we'll call it 95% of the map completed or viewed when you beat Dracula, it affects the ending, where you get a slightly less good version of it. If you complete more than that 95%, you actually get the best ending of the game. There are 4 endings, depending on what you do. I'll go over those as we get later in the game. I don't want to ruin the surprise if you've never played the game before. Alright, we're going to try to avoid this guy. Yep, good. Now, one of the things I neglected to mention, because we can't see that stat just yet, but the amount of damage that I'm doing to enemies is also affected sometimes by your luck stat. The way that happens is you actually have the chance to do critical hits based on luck. And the higher your luck stat, the more often you do critical hits. So certain enemies, it'll seem like I'm only doing a tiny amount of damage to and taking a lot of hits, versus sometimes they die in 1 or 2 hits. And that's simply because my luck stat affects whether or not I do a critical. Where are we going? I think this is a save. No, it's not. Oh, no, this takes me to a helmet? Or sunglasses. Sunglasses. Nope, it's cape. Okay. I know I was getting an item up here. So we're going to put on the cape. Fun little detail about the capes is the fact that the interior of it, the lining, changes depending on which one you wear, as well as the outside color. The Twilight Cloak, which we started with, has a backing, a black outer side, and the inside is red, but it kind of flashes between red and black. The cloth cape, since it's a simple early item, is just brown. Not very exciting. But as we pick up new capes, the ability to change the colors or get unique effects will start to pop up. It's going to be a while before we see those, however. Whoop. This guy is more trouble than he's worth, so we're going to stay away from him. Jump, 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 jump. Characters' stats are not going to be terrible forever. But early on, yeah, there is a pretty stark difference in the amount of damage you can deal versus much later in the game. Let him go. Hoop, hoop, hoop. I think this is a save room. Yep. Very good, because we are coming up on the first boss fight of the game. Or first non-Dracula division boss fight of the game. I believe to the left there is a passage we won't be able to take just yet. This is probably a better pickup than the knife. The knife is not terribly useful at most intervals of the game. Right now, the weapon that I have equipped is a much more useful one, the axe. Magically sealed. So we have to get an item, which has the probably the dumbest name for an item ever, but I mean, technically it's right, which is called the... I think it's the Book of Open. It's so stupid. I'm pretty sure this is another one of those situations where they had a much more complex or involved name in Japanese, but because they had a character limit on the field, they just said, yeah, Book of Open sounds right. Go ahead. All right, let's go ahead and get that first boss fight out of the way. There we go. Hey, boys. Ouch. Already taking some nasty hits. Of the two to fight early, I think Slogra, that guy right there that I just killed, is the tougher of the two. Gaibon is a little bit easier because he can't go airborne on his own. But you can see, I killed him pretty quick, and that's because I managed to get a couple of critical hits that did some extra damage. And Gaibon died pretty easily. Health up. Again, I'm using a very early weapon that does not do very much damage, and my strength stat is still pretty low. It's only at 4 right now. So a lot of that has to do with the fact that my luck stat makes it so I do a ton of critical hits. And using a weapon that does fast attacks like this one makes it that much easier to kill an enemy fast. But I'm not going to be using that item forever. When we do find another weapon, we'll use that instead. I don't know if we've used the spell just yet, but I will use one real quick here just to demonstrate what some of them do. Alright, we want to go down here. Blah! Blah! Blee? Blow! Blue! Ha ha! Ha! Alright, so that little switch is put there just so you can call down the elevator if you don't have it already. Sunglasses. Alright, so let's go ahead and put on the sunglasses. That's a helmet. And it actually increases your defense but lowers your intelligence. For reasons. To the bottom. Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. Oh, gotta hold it. like the little poses you can do while you're in the elevator. I don't think they're the same if you're not in the elevator. So this is a shortcut back to the room where we got the Basilard, or the other side of the room where we got the Basilard. Just hit the switch. Door pops open, and now we can get back over there, if I can look at the map, a little bit quicker than having to go through that little elevator or staircase of rooms that we had to take to the left. We will have to come back for one little room over on the left side of that rectangular room, but probably won't be doing that for a while, because that is one where we have to have the ability to, if not double jump, the ability to fly, which you do get at some point. I love it. He's half vampire and half human, which is part of the story. Alucard, not full vampire. He is the child of the Lord of Evil, or Lord of Darkness, Dracula, but also of a human woman by the name of Lisa. And they actually go into his heritage a little bit in this game. But he has knee pads on. You know, he can take an unholy amount of damage because he is half vampire, but he's still got to protect his knees because, you know, those joints, they don't come back. Once they're gone, they're gone. So important to note, most of the rooms that you encounter in this game, the save rooms, have one entrance. There is one area of the game where that is not the case, where there is a door on the other side that you can go through. It's a little sneaky trick they did, and it is something that I struggled with to no end when I first played this game because I could not figure out where the item was I needed to advance. And it turns out it's behind a save room where there is 2 different exits that you can go out of. So I was kind of a dummy in that regard. All right, so let's do a quick spell. You don't actually have to pick up a book from I believe it's the librarian who sells the spells, or sells you the move you have to perform to do the spells. One of the earliest and easiest ones to do is something called Spirit something or other. Anyway, all you gotta do is press left, right, up, down, and then hit the attack button while you're holding down. So it goes a little something like this. Haha! That's a nice little trick you can do some easy heat-seeking damage, especially if you get stuck with a crappy weapon like I might end up with any time now. The reason why we want the luck stat for this particular playthrough is a lot of enemies in this game have unique weapons and a very low chance of dropping them. If you raise the amount of luck that you have as a character, you have a much higher chance of picking up those unique items instead of having to farm for them endlessly. Anyway, I came to the screen here to show you the spell page. It's called Summon Spirit. I knew it was something, and it was just on the tip of my tongue. There's another one we can learn or try to do, but I don't know if I have enough magic for it, called Dark Metamorphosis. If I can remember how you do it. Not doing it right, apparently. But basically, yep, come on. There it is. Basically, if you get to one of these zombies or any other enemy in the game that has blood, and you attack them, that blood splashes on Alucard's body, and hopefully I haven't run out yet, like this, and he gets health. Every time he attacks the enemy and they bleed on him, he gets 8 hit points back. A very useful item early on if you're fighting an enemy that bleeds to get your health back quickly. Gotcha. Oh, no, you don't. Those little spitting jerks. You gotta watch out for them, because if you do get poisoned this early in the game, it could potentially stick with you for a very long time. The length of time the poison stat affects you is based on your constitution, so since Alucard has high luck but low everything else, if he gets poisoned, it'll affect him for a very, very, very long time. Drop something, you coward! One of my favorite sub-weapons in this game. It's called the Bibuti? I'm not sure how you say it. Basically, it just drops a bunch of stuff on the ground and it poisons enemies or damages them. And it lasts a pretty long time and it does a lot of damage when it hits. It's a very good sub-weapon. Kind of like the holy water, but this one, I think the enemy can get hit once or twice for every little white crumb you're throwing on the ground. Yeah, holy water, okay. The item that I can't say for sure how you're supposed to pronounce it, so I just call it Bibuti, much better than holy water. Without knowing for certain what it is, I assume I'm throwing communion wafers at people, but maybe it's not that. Like, I'm throwing the body of Christ at people. I mean, it makes sense, sort of. This is very much a game about fighting evil, and in most versions of the game, they're not shy on saying that, you know, the characters are using holy relics that have very much Christian themes to them. Holy water, you attack enemies with a cross. So yeah, best guess is this is supposed to be like you throwing the body of Christ at people. Alright, so we want to take the path that goes to the right to make the main path, which is up and right. However, we're going to go down first because there is a long winding passage directly below me that has a couple of items that we're going to want to use if we can get them. Still haven't found any good drops yet. I know there's some items that you can get early in the game, and I'm a little shocked that I haven't found something yet. Not all of the items that enemies drop in this game are really low percentage drops. Some of them drop very easily with little effort. Like these skeletons here drop, I believe, a shield. And it usually has a fairly high drop rate. I think those marionettes can curse me if they touch, so you want to keep back if possible from them. Oh, $100 bag. That's nice. You can see there's a lot of items in this area. Unfortunately, I don't think I can pick up any of them just yet. We need an item that allows us to double jump. Not something that Alucard can do right off the bat. Oh, I got a smart potion. Increases my intelligence stat temporarily and makes it so that your spells do more damage. Go get him. Got one. Got two. Yoink, Spirit Orb. I believe if that doesn't give me the names of the enemies, it makes it so that you can see the damage you do. Easy way to find out, look at the relics page. Causes items to materialize, shows enemy damage. Alright, so now we'll be able to get an actual representation of the kind of damage I'm doing with each hit, including all the critical hits, because you'll see the amount of damage that's the critical hits do whenever I'm hitting the enemy. Blah, 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 blah. There's also a very tough enemy here, and there's a good chance I could die, which is why it's a good thing I saved before I went down here. These guys right here. This is where Bibuti shines. That Bibuti shine. Stand back. Oh. Yeah, look at that. I'm not doing much damage here. And he does quite a bit of damage when he hits me, so. Touch. I don't want to take another hit. All right. There we go. And look at that critical hit. 26 damage for one hit. right, cool little trick with these boomerang throwing guys. If you get right in their face right as the fight starts, they cower. If you don't get to them fast enough, they'll just throw their boomerangs even if you're in their face. This is an early farm spot for cash if you want it, because these ghosts usually drop money. And I think it's a fairly high amount. They drop like money bags. Yeah, there we go. 25 bucks. Also, there's a 250 bag that regenerates right there. Shouldn't have to worry about money during this playthrough, but if I have to, I can always come back here and pick up some cash. No, stay away. Stay away. Die, monster. You don't belong in this world. He sounds so stiff when he says that. All right, now this is another situation where I may have to burn a food item. Oh, I have a potion. Here we go. Perfect. Chug that real quick. Get some health. Unfortunately, the enemy I'm about to fight does not drop health. Sort. There we go. And he does an attack that can do a ton of damage if I let it hit me. This guy right here. Cthulhu! I think is what they call him. Oh, look at that! I think that was all the Bibuti hitting him. Yeah, it was. Whew. No! Power of Bibuti. Alright, so we are now on the other side of that very early room that we had come to before and could not get to. There was like a big weight that was blocking the path, and now we can lower that weight by pressing the switch. Pick up a shield potion. Jump in the gap. Taking advantage of Dark Metamorphosis and getting some health from this guy, if I can hit him. Thank you. You don't have to do that. You can actually just walk to the save room right here, but, you know, I did it because I can. Oh, no, yeah, save. What are you doing? Save, man. Alright, so, not that one. I keep hitting the wrong button. There is a room to the right that I don't think we can reach. We'll try, but I'm fairly certain you have to have double jump or flight to be able to access it. Oh, look at that hit. 90-something. 96, I think is what I did there. So, is it... Yeah? No, you're not going to be able to make that jump. It's too long, and Alucard does not have that kind of reach. Same with the room right down here. I don't think we can get to this. Oh, we did. Sweet. So there's a little platform you have to touch with your feet in order to get to it. Get a heart refresh. Now, important to note, if you are trying to get through the very early area with all of your starter equipment so you have a backup, don't come back down here until you've fought at least one boss. If you do, Death will pop up in this room, and then he will do his little spiel and steal all your items away. So you have to stay away from that room until you fought the very first boss, the Gaibon and Slagra fight. Once you've completed it, you can go through that room as much as you want. The game won't actually force you to cough up your equipment. And I think they do that because by then, you've already picked up so many other items that there's no way it can specify taking the right equipment if it's taking what you have equipped. Just a guess, not 100% on that. I'm sure there's some very specific technical reason for why you can't do that, but I I don't know what that would be. So a fun relic of the original design of the game, these little transition rooms served as loading points for the game. And that's why there's a little arrow with the CD sign on it right here. Because you would go into this room, the game would pause for a second while it loaded the assets for the next area. And then you would be able to continue. But because we're playing a digital version of this game, you don't have to actually sit through any of that. The fun advances of technology as time goes by. Suck my Bibuti! Whoa! Wow! That hit hard. Uh-oh. We might be in trouble here. Good thing I saved. Oh! Oh, oh he's rough. He's tough. I survived. Oh, it's gonna be hairy getting all the way up to the top. Because the save point is all the way up where those little Ouija tables were hitting me. So we got a long walk through a room full of ghosts and some guys that throw boomerangs that can do a ton of damage if they hit. We're in some trouble here. If the symbol's just avoiding the ghosts, we wouldn't have any trouble, but they pop up just about anywhere. Oh. Now, worst case scenario, I can always redo this entire run here in just a couple of minutes, but we don't want to if we can avoid it. All right, we're fine. Now, the real problem is we got to fight that knight in, yeah. I'm dead! No! Oh. I'll get used to this screen. We might see it a few times. All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and stop here. I think that was a very good look at the first part of the game for the first episode. We got some starter equipment. We fought our first boss and beat them fairly quickly. Again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have very high luck stats, so you do critical hits very often, and those hits usually do enough damage to wipe out lesser enemies very quickly when you do get them. That's not a guarantee. You kind of roll the dice every time you get a critical hit, and even with a very high luck stat, it's not every other hit. So some enemies are going to die real quick, and some of them are going to take forever to kill. But the good news is, since we saved recently, I didn't lose a ton of progress getting back up through that hallway. But hopefully in the beginning of the next episode, we blow through it very fast, and we can advance to the next boss fight. And I think it's maybe a couple of minutes walk from where we're at. Not a very long way to get to it, but that's going to do it for episode 1 of my Symphony of the Night long play. As always, I do appreciate each of you watching, and I will see you next time.